Hello everyone. My name is Peter. Welcome to the true stories being shared here. Please sit back and listen to today's story. AITA for inviting my foster brothers to my wedding after they said they don't consider me family. I'm a 32-year-old man about to marry my longtime girlfriend. What should have been one of the happiest moments of my life has turned into a heartbreaking ordeal because of the deepening rift within my family. To give you some background, I'm my parents' biological child, and when I was 12, they adopted two boys who were biological brothers, Jack, who was 8, and Liam, who was 5. From the start, it was clear that things would be difficult. Jack had serious behavioral issues due to some severe trauma. I won't go into detail, but it's significant. I tried my best to understand, but living with him was nothing short of exhausting. His outbursts were constant, and I often felt like I was walking on eggshells, terrified of setting him off. As we grew up, I continued to try to be there for Jack, despite everything. A few years ago, Jack fell into severe drug addiction. I stood by him in his darkest moments, supporting him through rehab and doing everything I could to help him get back on his feet. It was draining and heartbreaking, but I did it because I loved him and believed that despite the challenges, we were still brothers. Liam, on the other hand, was always easier to get along with, and I developed a closer bond with him. But even so, I always felt like an outsider. The bond between Jack and Liam as biological brothers was undeniable, and I never felt like I was truly part of that. It was like I was always on the outside looking in, trying to belong but never fully accepted. Recently, things came to a head during Sunday dinner at my parents' house. My son was working on a summer homework assignment that involved creating a family tree. He innocently asked Jack if he wanted to be a part of it, and Jack bluntly said no. He didn't want to be part of it because, in his exact words, "We're not really brothers." He said it so casually, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world, with no regard for how much it would hurt me. I was completely stunned, but what broke my heart even more was that Liam, who I'd always felt closer to, just sat there in silence. He didn't say a word. He didn't defend me or even acknowledge how hurtful Jack's words were. He just let it happen. I'd tried so hard to support both of them, especially Jack, despite the endless challenges. So for Jack to say that, and for Liam to do nothing, felt like a punch to the gut. It was as if they were both telling me loud and clear that I'd never really been a part of their family. In my pain and frustration, I decided to uninvite both Jack and Liam for my wedding. My fiancé has been nothing but supportive of my decision, but my parents are furious. They've made it clear that if Jack and Liam aren't invited, they won't be attending either. It feels like history is repeating itself, with my parents once again prioritizing Jack over me, no matter how much it breaks my heart. I'm truly devastated that my parents would choose to miss my wedding rather than support me in this. I know Jack has been through a lot, but I've done everything I can to be there for him and for Liam, despite all the pain. And now, I feel like I'm the one being punished for finally standing up for myself and setting some boundaries. AITA for uninviting my brothers after they said they don't see me as family, even if it means my parents won't come to my wedding. Update, August 18, 2024. Honestly, I'm still reeling from everything that's happened since my last post. First off, thank you to everyone who took the time to comment. I've read through all your advice, and it's been a lifeline. But buckle up, because things have taken a major turn. After hearing from so many of you, I decided I needed to talk to Liam. We met at a pub, and I just laid everything out there. How hurt I was when he didn't say anything after Jack made that awful remark about not being real brothers. I half expected him to defend himself, but what I got was something entirely different. Liam confessed that he's been living in fear of Jack for years. He told me that night he stayed silent out of fear of setting Jack off, not because he agreed with him. Then he dropped a bombshell. Even though he's Jack's biological brother, he's felt like an outsider in our family just like I have. The constant pressure from our parents to cater to Jack's every whim has worn him down too. Liam assured me that he's always considered me his brother, and that he regrets not standing up for me sooner. Hearing that was such a huge relief. Now he's fully on my side, and we agreed that if Jack can't respect me as a brother, then he has no place at my wedding or in our lives. But just when I thought things couldn't get any more tense, my parents decided to make things worse. I sat them down to explain why I uninvited Jack, hoping they'd understand. Instead, they gave me an ultimatum. If Jack isn't invited, they won't attend my wedding. No room for discussion, no empathy, just a flat-out refusal. I was gutted. After all these years of putting Jack's needs above mine, this is how they repay me. I couldn't hold back anymore. I unleashed all the anger and frustration I've been bottling up for years. I told them how I've always been the one to sacrifice, how they've always prioritized Jack, and that I'm done being treated like I don't matter. I made it clear that if they choose not to attend my wedding, they're making their choice, and I'll make mine. With that, I walked out, leaving them to make their decision. Out of nowhere, Jack started bombarding me with the nastiest, most hurtful messages I've ever received. He accused me of turning Liam against him, of tearing the family apart, and even had the audacity to call me selfish for abandoning him. He complained about how he's never felt like he belonged in a family, and that it was all my fault for pushing him away. His words hit hard, but they also opened my eyes. Jack has spent his whole life blaming others for his problems, and I've been his favorite scapegoat. But this time, I'm not letting him guilt-trip me. I didn't even respond, I just blocked his number. If he can't see what he's done wrong, then there's nothing left to say. Liam was furious when I told him about Jack's messages. He's more determined than ever to support me, and we've decided to keep our distance from our parents until after the wedding. Liam's been my rock through all of this, helping me plan the wedding and making sure I don't have to deal with this mess alone. So the wedding is still on, but with a much smaller guest list. My parents haven't contacted me since our argument, and at this point I don't care if they show up or not. This day is about me and my fiancé, and I won't let anyone, even my family, ruin it. Thank you again for all your support and advice. I'll let you know if anything else happens, though I really hope my next update is just about how amazing the wedding was. Fingers crossed. Update 2, August 25, 2024. Hi everyone, I wanted to give an update after everything that's happened over the past week. A lot has changed, and I'm so grateful to say that things are heading in a much better direction. 2 days after the texting argument with Jack, he reached out to me. I wasn't sure what to expect when he asked if we could meet, and I was very hesitant, but I agreed. When we sat down, the first thing he did was apologize. He told me he was sorry for what he said to my son and admitted that he didn't know why he said it. Jack seemed genuinely remorseful, and I could tell he really meant it. This wasn't just another apology to smooth things over. This was different, and it felt sincere. After apologizing, Jack took a deep breath and confessed something that I probably should have seen coming. He told me that he had relapsed before the argument happened. Hearing that broke my heart. It explained so much about his behavior in the weeks leading up to that moment. The irritability, the distance, the way he withdrew from everyone. I realized that I had missed all the signs. I'm not proud to admit it, but I was so frustrated with Jack's behavior and so wrapped up in my own wedding that I didn't stop to think that there might be something deeper going on. Jack's confession wasn't just about relapsing, it was about taking responsibility in a way he never had before. He went on to tell me that after realizing the damage he'd caused, he decided to check himself into treatment. This might sound like a typical step, but for Jack, it was monumental. In the past, Jack only went to treatment because he was court-ordered to, or because our parents threatened to kick him out if he didn't get help. But this time, he made the decision on his own. It was something he'd never done before, and it showed me that he really wants to change. He told me he's doing this because the thought of losing me, his brother, was too much for him to bear, and he couldn't handle it. He wants to take this seriously because he wants to show me that he can do it. He told me he sees me as his family, and he feels terrible for making me feel like I wasn't part of his. Jack also agreed to start taking medication to help calm his nerves, something he had never been willing to do before. It's been about 5 or 6 days since Jack checked himself into treatment, and I've been visiting him regularly. At first I went alone because I wasn't sure how my son would feel about seeing Jack so soon after everything happened. But after a few visits, I felt it was important for my son to see that Jack was making an effort to make things right. So I brought him along, and Jack took the opportunity to apologize to him in person. It was a really emotional moment for me as a parent. My son is still young and doesn't fully understand everything that's going on, but he could see that Jack was sorry, and that seemed to make a difference to him. They even spent some time together, just talking and playing, and it felt like a huge step forward for all of us. Through all of this, my brother Liam has been incredibly supportive. We've talked a lot about Jack, and it's clear that Liam wants to see him succeed just as much as I do. We both know how deeply Jack's trauma has affected him, and while that doesn't excuse his behavior, it does help us understand why he struggled so much. Having Liam by my side through all of this has made me feel a lot less alone. Reflecting on everything, I realized that I need to take responsibility for my part in letting things escalate. In the weeks leading up to the argument, Jack was doing things that really upset me. Instead of addressing it calmly, I let my frustration build until I finally exploded. Looking back, I can see that his behavior might have been related to his relapse, and I should have recognized that sooner. I feel guilty for not seeing the signs and for reacting the way I did. But I'm trying to focus on what I can do now to support Jack as he's serious about his recovery. When I wrote my first 2 posts, I was extremely frustrated with Jack, and while I didn't lie or say anything untrue, I definitely painted a picture of Jack at his worst moments without anything else. I want to remind everyone about Jack's trauma. Jack was a victim of severe abuse by his biological family, including extensive CSA. Liam was too, but Jack's was much more intense. Jack got into drugs at a very young age, but had been clean, or so I thought, for a while. I've mentioned this before, but Jack has told me that even now, nearly 20 years after he was adopted by our parents, there isn't a day that goes by when he doesn't think about or have nightmares about the abuse. He says the only moments of peace he ever got were when he was high. Jack's trauma runs deep, and it's something that continues to affect him every day. I'm not excusing his actions, but I think it's important to remember that he's dealing with a lot of pain. Despite everything, I still believe in Jack. I believe he has the strength to overcome his past, and with Liam and me by his side, I hope he can get through this. I also want to take a moment to thank everyone who gave advice and support on my last post. Your words helped me see things from a different perspective, and gave me the push I needed to approach this situation with more compassion. There's still a long road ahead, but I'm optimistic that we're on the right track now. For now, things are getting better. Jack is taking treatment seriously, and our family is slowly healing. We're taking things one day at a time, and I'm committed to supporting Jack as long as he's committed to helping himself. Thank you all again for your support. Your advice has been invaluable during this difficult time. Some of you might think I'm weak or naive to believe that this time will be different. But I'm willing to take that risk for Jack because he's shown me this past week that he truly wants to get better and he wants to be better. Jack told me he wants to earn back the invitation, but I haven't given it to him yet. He said he'll prove that he deserves it. I really hope he does.